30 minutes at the top of the hour. So watching and listening to Newsfile is on Joy 99.7 FM on the JoyNews channel on Multi TV. My guest, Abdul Malik Kubako, Dr. Odrosai, Pius Namajide, and Felix Kwachifosu. Let's go into this pet subject, the RTI conversation. This week, there have been protests. In fact, yesterday, you see on social media people wearing red because they campaign to get the bill passed into law, sort of gather momentum again because of promises made by the Speaker, by also the members of Parliament, that the bill will be passed into law before the rise this month. And, you know, a lot of people who have been campaigning for the RTI bill to be passed were skeptical that we're just days for Parliament to rise. Just before Christmas. They're afraid that we might return to the usual problem where the bill isn't passed. And so they're putting a lot of pressure on Parliament to do so. They marched to Parliament. Some of them were prevented from going to the chamber. Eventually, Hammond Idris intervened, and they were allowed in there. Whether they made a difference, though, is what we don't know. But the parliamentarians have said they will not be forced into passing this, although they also committed that this will be passed before December. The question is whether they will keep to that promise. Dr. Odrosai, I mean, this is a recurrent conversation. It comes back all the time. You almost get fatigued just talking about the RTI, and we almost get there, we never get there. You're too close, but you're too far. Having heard all the promises made, the deadlines given this time, Parliament is just about going on recess before Christmas. Are you confident that with this latest push by the civil society and media people that Parliament will pass it, and what would it take?
I have little confidence that it will be passed. In fact, information is critical in any democratic governance system, because if citizens have the right information, they ask the relevant questions and they get answers. But I also am of the firm belief that when you look at Article 21, 1F, it is clear that all persons shall have the right to information subject to such qualifications and laws as are necessary in a democratic society. So I was asking myself, this right to information, to what extent can it give citizens the full access to the information without qualifications? If it is going to give us access to every information, unrestricted information without qualifications, that's fine. But that is not going to be possible because of the provision under Article 21, 1F. This business of RTI law first started in 1766 in Sweden, when Parliament, the Swedish Parliament itself, wanted to have access to information held by the king. My candid opinion is that Parliament may not be able to pass it from the way things are going. But I think that even if they do not pass it, we have enough laws in this country to encourage us to access information. Because by the provision under Article 21, 1F, I can imagine that even the bill that will come out as an act may still have some restrictions. Because they cannot pass a bill or into an act that can undermine Article 21, 1F, which is saying that the right to information is subject to qualifications. So are they telling me that the right to information bill in Parliament now does not restrict access to certain information?
It does.
It does. So where lies the opportunity for people to have access to all information? So I think we should interrogate it well.
Fundamental question. So having said that, do you want the status quo to remain, which is, let's stick with the Constitution and what the courts have decided?
No, I think so. I think if we stick to the Constitution, is good. But then if we think that...
And the courts have given meaning to this, by the way, because others have gone to court on this and they've gotten information.
They've gotten information. That is good. But I think, you see, constitutions normally provide generic provisions. You need an act of Parliament that will give the specifics. So that is what we need. But the specifics should not be in such a way that it will classify or put certain information under a code of classification. That's why I have a problem. Because if you pass a Right to Information Act and you tell me that certain information that we need with the intelligence services, we cannot have access to it, then you better do not pass the act. You know, so that is the problem. I think that the current status quo is okay. If we are passing an act of Parliament, then an act of Parliament should give us an unrestricted access to the information that we need, because the rights information is important to ask the right questions, to demand accountability in governance.
Tired of this fight already, or so invigorated to fight for the passage?
Well,
is that fatigue?
Well, I'm not part of those who are suffering the fatigue, but I admit that it's been long-standing. It's about 20 years. Yes, and Doc refers to the Constitution. Interestingly, after he made the point that he made, he came to Act of Parliament. You see, because if I read, said all persons shall have the right to go, we're going to 21F, information subject to such qualifications and laws as necessary in a democratic society. Laws, Act of Parliament. So we need it. We can't just leave it hanging anyhow, in my candid opinion.
Yeah.
Yes, and the Constitution gives us the direction.
The question is whether you will get it. You need it, yes.
We need it. We will get it.
In good time.
We will get it, or we'll occupy Parliament. Yeah, we need
Yourself?
it. I will be there. If we have to go and occupy Parliament on this call, I will suspend my suspension of demos and join.
And join them.
Yes, look, yes, man. For years, look, of course, they are not on the same level, but you remember the criminal libel, seditious libel. It took us some 20, 30 years. There were people who said it would be over their dead bodies. But we succeeded. Eventually, Parliament had to intervene and amend the laws, you know. The same thing with this. I agree that even without it, we are able to get the courts to compel. But it took a hell of time, and it's expensive. Litigation is expensive, you know, and sometimes protracted. When indeed we can easily pass legislation that could help us. Nobody is asking for every information in its entirety. It won't make sense. It won't. So there are exemptions, there are limitations. It would be better to have those than not have them at all. It's progressive. Society needs the free right to information. We need it. To be honest with you, I'm totally for it. I understand all the challenges, the difficulties, the complications that are being put out there. Usually the politicians love to hear that. Okay? Civil servants, some the top class, they love to hear that. So many things happen in this country because there's no sunshine. We lose.
But we get all the leaks and
you're talking interception
all the time.
Yeah, but is that what you want? I can get it. Yeah, there's no information, and I'm not boasting. There's no information if I want, I won't get. Because we are journalists. We are trained to cultivate sources in both the private and public sector. And some of us have cultivated those sources over 30, 40 years. Governments go, governments come. Those sources remain. That's what people don't know. Okay, so I could get it, but that should not be a substitute for the right of the citizenry to access information. Some level of information that we are not given. It doesn't even make sense. I agree. A lot of the information, if you go to the Hansard, you get some. You go to the budgets, you get some. All true. But there are still some information that we hardly get because the politicians and the civil servants want to keep it away from us. Some procurement processes. Look, recently, there was a huge battle over procurement documents. Is it the Kelvin?
GBG.
Yeah. Why did they have to go to court? People arguing. Those documents should have been put even on the website of the Public Procurement Authority. Why do we have to go through those things? Because of these imbalances, inconsistencies.
But you think the right information law will cure that?
It will cure it to a large extent. There may still be some areas where it will be gray area. That's why I said I'm not sure we are looking for 100% intrusion into government affairs. But we need to open up the space in terms of information. Nobody should underestimate the agitation for the RTI. In spite of the fact that the Constitution gives us an option, the courts are there. No, please, let's complement it with the Act of Parliament.
The MPs gave themselves before, they'll pass it before they rise, before Christmas. But
well, I don't want to. Because you see, the last Parliament, even though I can see that there are still amendments going on, new additions, but still, the last Parliament, they nearly passed it. And then minority, today's majority, were part of the problem in not making it pass. Somebody has told me that, look, the fact that they are still doing some amendments vindicates the minority stand. No, you can pass a law which can be subject to amendment subsequently. We ought to have passed it then. The minority then, which is the majority today, actually were not enthusiastic. They gave all sorts of reasons and rationalizations for the non-passage. We are back again doing some amendments the same way. We're not careful, December will pass, we won't pass it. No. Then we will occupy Parliament.
Felix.
Well, I have somewhat controversial views on this matter. I'm not sure whether the excitement heralding this right to information bill is entirely justified.
There might be an anticlimax.
Yeah, I suspect so. Because really, if we are going to have a law that places significant fetters on access to information, then what is the point? I mean, what is it within our democratic process now that does not enable us access some kind of information that this right to information bill will address? The same barriers of national security, national interest, and sensitivity will be erected in the face of those who seek some kind of information. We've made incremental progress over the years. Today, there's hardly any information that you require about the Ghanaian economy that you cannot access, even on the website of the Ministry of Information, through budget statements and what have you. If you want to shine the light on corruption, there are various audits that are carried out routinely that bring out a lot of issues. There are even forensic audits that can be ordered into the administration of various individuals who have occupied public office and what have you. So if we are engaged in all this agitation only to end up with a bill that stipulates that some kind of information cannot be given to the public, then what is the point? We either drink deep or we taste not. So if we feel that governments reserve the right, or the executive reserves the right to retain some level of secrecy over some kind of information, then I don't think that we've gone far enough. So we must tread cautiously and limit the level of expectations that we raise in the eyes of the public about what information they will come by in the wake of the passage of this right to information bill. The second point that I wish to make is that even if we are going to pass it, then I would choose thoroughness over speed, because it is imperative that we have a bill that is robust, that can stand the test of time, that will limit the tendency for people to abuse the process and simply harass government for information that is not necessary.
Your government position is clear. The president says he wants it passed. The question is whether your members of parliament will comply in good time.
Well, you're right, our position is clear, but I do associate with the portion of Felix's presentation that says that let's do a thorough job. Okay. Let us not be seen to be stampeding Parliament into doing something to meet a certain...
Well, you see, after 20-something years, are we really stampeding?
What rush can there be when they've done it for
20-something years?
Well, but time will not allow it. But you see, we have a new parliament now, new members of parliament, new perspectives.
And there are new exigencies.
A lot of Mugabe's.
That, by the way, is Kuku, Abdul Malik Kukubako, editor-in-chief of the Crusading Guide newspaper. I also had Dr. Kodro Sai and the Deputy Information Minister, Paratana Hajide, and the former Deputy Communications Minister, Felix Kwachefosu. My name is Evan Spencer. Samson will be back in the seat next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.